We've got quorum. I texted Mindy, at least the number on that Jim shared, and have not heard anything back yet, but let's go ahead and get started. I would like to call this meeting to order. The Commission on Equitable Housing and Development meeting has now commenced. It is July 10th at 4:11 p.m. This is a virtual meeting. We ask that you mute yourselves until called upon to speak to avoid feedback and background noise. For those who have dialed in using the call-in number, to unmute to speak, dial *6 on your phone, and that you only use the chat function to request to speak. Also, to comply with the state open meeting law, attendance and votes will be done by way of roll call using audio. Now I will do the roll call. Maggie Amato Tellez is absent. Marianne Bierling.
Here.
Mindy Bernstein, I believe, is still not with us. Vicky Cusino, I believe, is also.
Yeah, that's the trust. Yeah.
Also not with us. Serena Warake, has she joined us yet?
Yes, present.
Hey, Serena. Lori Mazurba.
Present.
Robert Ojeda, I know he is traveling. Tisha Tallman.
Here.
Jim Toffel.
Present.
Ray Winch.
Present.
Kenny Wong.
Present.
Alan Solat is absent, I believe, and Jay Young, that is me. I am here. And with that, we have quorum. We do have a new member who unfortunately wasn't able to join us today because, as Jim mentioned, vacation in July in Tucson is a thing. So Robert Ojeda is the president and CEO of Piedmont Council on Aging, and hopefully he will be able to join us next month. With that, we need to approve the June minutes. Are there any updates, additions, edits that need to be made to the minutes? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve the June minutes.
I make a motion to approve. This is
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Jim has seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the June meeting minutes are approved. Next, I'd like to just briefly review the agenda. Obviously we have our normal standing agenda items, but really today, I think what we want to do is just kind of touch base about where we are in our subcommittees, see if are any impediments that we need to deal with, any information that we need. And I think the other thing to keep in mind is that we had set August, which will be our next meeting, as the next time that we would meet with Southwest Decision Resources for facilitation, kind of based again on where we are. So hopefully today we can kind of figure out where we are and, either confirm with SDR for August and kind of what we're looking for from them, or I think we always have the option of pushing their assistance out a little bit if we're not quite there yet. So that is basically what we're doing today. There's not a whole lot else on the agenda. So kind of depending on how our conversation goes, we may end a little early, although every time I've ever said that, I don't know that we've ended early. So just keep your fingers crossed. Let's see. So that's what's on the agenda basically today. And with that, I will move to the call to the audience. The call to the audience is limited to 3 minutes per speaker and a total of 10 minutes. All speakers must share their name to be recorded in the meeting minutes. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak? Call to the audience. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak? Is there anybody in the audience?
There are 3 people. No hands are up yet.
Okay. So seeing no hands being raised for the call to the audience, we can move along to the next agenda item, which again, these kind of run together. So we'll just kind of get started and see where we go. And that is discussion on identifying curriculum for the commission related to homelessness. So basically, is there anything that we need, any common terms or curriculum that we would need as a commission to further educate us on homelessness? And if you can see on the agenda, one of the questions is, would it be beneficial for somebody from TPCH's in homelessness's lived experience council to join a future CEHD meeting for a panel discussion? So yes, Allison.
Sorry, I want you to let you finish your sentence.
That was it. You're good.
I just right at our kind of agenda conversation day, I did talk to Kat Davis, our Continuum of Care lead team manager, and so I do have a document that I can go through in terms of like a little bit of like a draft, just based on some of the conversations we've had, some proposed content to give the commission something to react to in terms of a potential curriculum, if that would be helpful. But also,
Please.
Okay, share screen. Okay, and then you went somewhere else. Okay. Okay, can everyone see my screen all right?
Yes.
You might just want to zoom in a little bit. There you go.
Yeah. So I feel like there's probably a better word than curriculum, but for lack of a better term, I think in thinking about the commission trying to tackle homelessness, felt like it could be helpful to kind of develop a more targeted common understanding of some of the issues and some of the players. I think especially from a city perspective, sort of there's a lot of different departments and programs that in one way or another feed into our regional homeless response system, including TPCH, but sort of other funding sources and programs that operate within HCD and other departments. So in terms of thinking through a little bit of a curriculum, I'm outlining about kind of 4 sessions here, but things can be broken out, things can be changed, just offering that here for something for the commission to react to. A first session on kind of shared definitions and an overview of like what is the homeless response system in general, some data related to kind of where things are in Tucson. Session 2, what is the city's role in the homeless response system, like I mentioned. As you know, TPCH is a regional body, but the lead team is situated here in the city. But like I mentioned, HCD and other programs and departments throughout the city also have a role. A third session, a little bit more loosely defined, kind of how are things going once we have a better picture of what things look like, kind of what are some emerging successes that we've had, what are kind of some of the ongoing challenges, what gaps exist, and potentially review some national best practices. And then also included kind of a lived experience panel once the group had a better idea of kind of what things look like, then could have some conversations with folks with lived experience of homelessness to get their take. But it's very much just a draft opportunity to have something out there for y'all to react to.
Thanks, Allison. Any thoughts, y'all, about this, or just in general, anything that we would potentially want to hear about at future meetings? Go ahead, Ray.
One thing I wonder about is, it seems like one of the major causes of homelessness is the high housing costs. And a big barrier in that is like not having the municipal ability to put in any kind of rent stabilization. So I would,
Ray, I think we lost you. You seem to have cut out.
the different leverage points are for overcoming that. Also,
Um,
some analysis on the impact of rent stabilization on homelessness.
Ray, I missed about the last 15 seconds of what you were saying. It
Oh, yeah.
seems like you cut out, so I don't know.
Okay.
Rewind maybe 20 or 30 seconds.
Just saying to make sure to include Prop 207 and whatever other barriers are to putting into place rent stabilization. I think really looking at that upstream of why there is so much homelessness and really what some of the barriers are to preventing that, as well as the impact of rent stabilization on affecting the percentages of homelessness.
Ray, do you have any thoughts about who might be able to speak to that or where we could get more information?
I'd be happy. I'd love to see if anyone else in the room does. There are a few people I could think of, but I would like to actually go even deeper into it. Maybe even getting a city of Tucson attorney or Pima County attorney, maybe city of Tucson attorney. Because I know city of Tucson, Mayor Romero has said that, that her hands are tied as a mayor because of some of the things that happen on a statewide level. So I'd be interested in the city legal perspective on what the barriers are to being able to implement.
Got it. Does anyone else have any thoughts about folks that could enlighten us on this topic? If not, Jim, I see your hand.
Well, I have thoughts on rent stabilization, but I kind of have the opposite opinion that I think, we have a hard enough time. The reason that rents are too high is because we don't have enough housing. And we need to figure out ways to reduce regulation and make it easier for people to build housing. That's the best way to get the housing costs down. And if we start putting in more rules, it's just, I think, going to create additional challenges for housing. It's not going to fix the problem. I think it's going to make it worse over time. But that's not the reason I raised my hand. So that's just my 2 cents on the rent stabilization.
Before you go on to Jim, what you did raise your hand for, I just wonder if we could get both perspectives, and if there's somebody that could also come and talk about how regulations are causing higher home prices and leading to homelessness. And it wouldn't be a bad idea to get multiple perspectives on that. So go ahead.
Well, so I put together actually I need to put it together a presentation that talks about the cost impact of regulation on development, and especially in the affordable housing space. Regulation accounts for about 40% of the total costs of development, and it's over $100,000 per unit. When you start looking at all the different forms of taxation and all the rules and all the regulations and the hoops you got to jump through to get these projects done, it's an immense amount of work and regulation. And it's some of it's based on federal statutes, some of it's based off of state, county, city, and it's in a lot of ways it's kind of death by a million paper cuts is the way I look at it. And so I've been talking to representatives at the state level about what are some state laws that can be changed to help reduce regulation and make it easier to get projects out of the ground. And I'm happy to share that with anybody in this group if they're interested in seeing it.
I'm sure you probably don't know this off the top of your head, Jim, but I just wonder, obviously when it comes to regulations, I think there are things that we would all agree are non-negotiables that, we need regulations for safety or fire, or whatever the case may be.
Right.
But is there any analysis of kind of extra regulation? Because I think that's kind of the question, right? Is, what regulations are there that we think are helping in some way, but are actually, hurting the ability to build affordable housing? Because obviously, the idea of reducing all of the regulations is probably not realistic. But I'm just wondering, like, what if the kind of excess, quote unquote, regulations have ever been identified?
So, I had a great meeting with development services with Corin and some other individuals over there talking about.
You're muted.
Just a question for Allison. I read in the paper this last week that there's been some data that was published from the point in time count. Has that been fully vetted? Do you guys have access to that?
Yes. Yeah. That is
Would
through
it be worth sharing?
Yeah, sorry. I feel like my connections may be
Go
bad.
ahead. Well, I was just asking if you could maybe share kind of what the findings were from the last point in time count.
Yep. Yeah, that would be part of the data in terms of the landscape in Tucson right now.
A summary of this data, is in the detailed agenda packet too, under HCD updates. So that, yeah, that initial information is there.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, but I'm with you, Jim. I think it would be great to have someone speak to us in a little more depth about the pit count and kind of, where things stand as compared to last year. Also, I just want to draw everybody's attention to the Equitable Housing Strategy Subcommittee meeting that we had a couple of weeks ago. Keith Bentley and a colleague of his basically took up the entire hour and a half, giving us a presentation about their what I believe is essentially hot off the presses research related to homelessness, and particularly looking at evictions and it's chock full of information, and also it has a number of recommendations as well. So if you have a chance, I think it's worth going back and looking at the recording of that meeting, just because of how much information. I mean, to me, it felt like Keith's presentation captured a decent amount of what we're talking about. And it's got some kind of newer research. I did also, just FYI for HCD, I did go to the CEHD website and I tried to access that recording, but it asked me for a passcode. So it's not, I don't think it's available to the public in the way that it probably is meant to be. So
Thanks, Jay. I'll look into that.
sure. Any other thoughts about curriculum for the full commission as we move forward? Okay, if something else comes up, I think the next couple of agenda items, we can certainly bring that back up based on the next few topics. So the next topic are the report outs and the action plan, our action plans from our subcommittees. And my understanding is that the Housing First subcommittee and what's the name of the other subcommittee? I'm blanking. Two of the three didn't meet. The only one that met, I think, was the Equitable Housing Strategy. So I could go first, although the big punchline I already revealed. So But anyway, we did meet a couple of weeks ago. And like I said, Keith's presentation was excellent, and really had a lot of in-depth information, and essentially had some built-in recommendations touching on a lot of the things that we've talked about, having a more centralized command, I guess, really, of homeless services that everybody knows, this is the one number that you call that's updated with resources. There are a number of other recommendations, but I think it really went along well and provided a lot of good background research and documentation as to, what's going on, and some of the potential recommendations to deal with the eviction crisis, and obviously preventing further evictions. So I would really recommend everybody go back and watch that. I mean, we could also have him come and present to the whole commission. But again, it was, we spent what, an hour and 15 minutes just on that, asking questions and whatnot. So I feel like overall, where we are with our, coming up with recommendations, we've got a couple of other presentations over the next couple of months. Kat Davis is going to come talk to us, and then I think Brandy Champion or somebody from her team is going to come and talk to us about cashew as well. So we've got a couple of other informational presentations, but I think we've got a pretty good bead on some recommendations around eviction prevention and dealing with homelessness in that way. So that's my update. I don't know if anybody else who is on the subcommittee who was at the meeting a couple of weeks ago has anything to add. If you do, now's the time. If not, I saw Ray posted in the chat as well about the mobile home task force. Ray, do you want to go next?
Sure. Yeah, the mobile home task force did meet this month. One of the key issues that we've been focusing on is the lack of regulation enforcement for utility charges. So it's a conversation we've had a lot of times. We know it's a problem. We know that the Arizona Corporation Commission doesn't oversee sub-metered utilities, that the utilities themselves don't oversee it, but really trying to get to that next level, which is, okay, they don't now, but who could? We know that there's a gap. How do we get to that next level of closing that gap? So we are looking into a few models. One is a Colorado model that they, in 2019, passed new legislation to have a department that oversees manufactured housing parks and requires that manufactured housing parks register with the state. And they're doing a lot more of the enforcement. Also looking into what it might take for the Corporation Commission to be able to regulate sub-metered and master meter utilities. So our next meeting will be focusing on the home repair programs and the weatherization programs, but we'll continue with this thread of regulation of utilities.
Thanks, Ray. Jim or Tisha, do y'all have anything to add regarding your subcommittees? I know y'all didn't meet, but if there's anything you'd like to summarize or share.
No, unfortunately, we haven't had quorum. I apologize.
Okay, thanks, Tisha. Jim?
Yeah, it was my fault we didn't meet. I got a scheduling snafu. We do need to get another person into the Affordable Housing Subcommittee, because with Mary Ann leaving, that leaves us basically with just two of us. So, I don't know if anybody's interested in maybe coming
Jim,
over. Yeah,
it's Mindy, and I had sent out an email to get onto the Affordable Housing Subcommittee meeting this month, but did not receive a link. But you've got me if you want me, unless somebody else wants to jump in.
okay. I thought you had wanted to be on the ad hoc to talk about the Housing Trust Fund. Both. Okay. Thank you, Mindy.
My pleasure.
Jim, isn't Serena on the housing?
I thought so, but on the agenda, it shows Serena is on the housing first.
I thought I was on. We're just asking this for a good open space donor.
Serena, what did you say?
Sorry, it's a little loud here. I thought I was on the affordable.
It's about business selects 1 through 15 for Las Vegas. Business selects all.
Serena thought she was on the Affordable Housing Committee is what she said.
Yeah.
That does put housing first in a bit of a quandary as well, because they only had 3 members.
And then we'll also have, I don't think Robert Ojeda has been assigned a committee or has chosen if we want to let him choose.
And I wasn't sure with Alan, did Alan join the Housing First or something else?
Yes, Alan did volunteer to be on the housing first, in my recollection.
Okay.
And he is also on Equitable Housing. So I think I remember him saying he was be on both.
So do we need one more person? Yeah, there's 3 of us. Is that right, Mindy? Is that your recollection as well?
I think it's you and I, Alan. That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
It's such an unpopular subcommittee. And it just, again, I think I've vented about this before. It just surprises me that people are not attracted to the Housing First subcommittee, as it is so key to our homelessness issue. That's my vent. I don't want to shame anybody. Join the committee, please, subcommittee. Housing First. You'll like it. We're nice. I'll mute now.
Thanks, Wendy. And then the other, we also have the Housing Trust Fund Ad Hoc Committee that is still working on scheduling its first meeting. So that will be happening as well. Let's see. Is there anything else, y'all, that we want to discuss during this subcommittee report out section of the agenda? In terms of membership or report outs or anything else?
Just that. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Just that I'd be interested in the ad hoc as well.
Thanks, Serena. So one of the things too that, I think we can discuss now, and I think this also runs into the discussion about for the next agenda item, the checking in with Southwest Decision Resources. So I guess my question is, obviously, not every subcommittee is going to be able to meet every month. So, that is what it is. But, are there any other things that are needed in the subcommittees currently to move the ball forward in terms of coming up with recommendations, getting other information? And I'm kind of thinking about the next agenda item as well in terms of, when we regroup with Southwest Decision Resources, because we do still have, at least a couple hours of facilitation services that they can give us. And I think it would be worthwhile to, think about how we want them to help us out based on where we are with our subcommittees. I would say, at least for my subcommittee, I think we're in a pretty good spot. I don't know that we really need anything additional from Southwest Decision Resources, but based on having decided that we were going to work on homelessness and have things go to committee, what, if anything, are the impediments? What do we need to deal with? Is there anything else that we need to do to move the ball forward and have some recommendations ready towards the end of this year? Go ahead, Mindy.
I'd like to see some cohesive work focus on the city committing dollars to more housing first programs or sanctioned campgrounds. Better yet, the pallet community tiny home solutions for our unhoused citizens, for the homeless.
Is there something related to those issues that could be taken up in a subcommittee, or are there things that are needed to further discuss that, or are there any impediments to doing that currently in the subcommittees?
It is the main, speaking for Housing First in my recollection, Tisha, please correct me, that is the focus of the Housing First. And as I have been on this commission for a while, we've kind of covered our two main objectives, and the third is homelessness. And my hope was that that become the focus of this full commission. Period. That's me. And I'm speaking for myself. I'm, here in my cozy house when I live across the street from a city park, and I am watching people roasting in the sun, and I'm at a pretty emotional place of watching human beings suffering the way that they are. And that, well, I'll be quiet. You got it. You guys understand where I'm coming from. It's like, it feels like we keep talking about the same issues over and over again within the context of models and data. It's like, I want to really see some action. I want to see it's been so many years we've been talking about this. I mean, my hope and prayer is, yes, the city has taken on more than it ought to. It's a national issue. It's a state issue. What can we do to drive the city to bring in more services, supports for people that are unhoused?
Yeah, no, thank you for that, Mindy. And I think you're accurate in terms of, we did decide as a full commission to really focus in on homelessness, and each subcommittee took on a part of that. So the idea I think that we came to was that we'd like to have recommendations that we can review from each of the subcommittees. I don't think we set a hard and fast timeline, but towards the end of this year. So again, is there anything, and this is to the group or you, Mindy, if you've got any ideas as well, but what are the things, if anything, that are preventing our subcommittees from getting to the action plans, whether it's, needed information or more guidance, because I do think that, we could have Southwest Decision Resources help us with that. So, yeah, go ahead, Mindy.
Thank you, Jay. The Housing First Subcommittee has presented or directed the commission to review both the presentation from Chris Olson with the Homing Project, who currently has Pallet Village with specifically individuals with behavioral health disorders, is also a very successful model around California. So we have a living model here in Tucson with the Pallet, which is the micro homes. And that the company Pallet builds these micro homes and community buildings specifically for agencies or entities that will provide all the wraparound services, such as employment, care management, and medical. And also Housing First brought to the commission, to the attention, Rachel Milne, who is in Phoenix and is successfully running a sanctioned campground. And The city is oh golly, my brain just had a seniorette moment. What is the place on Oracle, Anne? The Housing First?
Sorry, I couldn't unmute. The Wildcat Inn is
Thank you.
the emergency shelter on Oracle.
Thank you. They've done it. That's a great model as well. And old abandoned hotel. It's more, where do we get the funding and the will? Where do we get people on fire enough where it's, what else is there? We have to do this. And I'm wondering if the commission can be somehow involved in lighting a fire in other people's hearts to take care of our homeless population. Okay, done. I'm done with my thing. Thanks, Jay.
Thanks, Mindy. Lori, go ahead.
I think, you said that we're going to have some presentations coming from TPCH and CAT and everything, but I think we'd be remiss if we don't talk about the fact that funding is going to be changing drastically. We already have had issues. As Mindy said, we've been working on this for years. And HUD and Runaway Homeless Youth, which are two really major providers of housing funding in our community, have both stated intention to release NOFOs or have put one out, and they're drastically different and they're changing the model of housing. And so we've worked all these years towards housing first, and now this current administration has changed the rules completely, and we're going back 25 years. So I think we'd be really remiss if we didn't talk about the impact that's going to have on our community and what that's going to look like. And I know there are some agencies that are trying to decide if they're willing to play by the rules that HUD is asking agencies to play by the rules. So I think that's a big thing that we need to talk about, because it's just going to impact this work that we've had a hard time getting off the ground to some extent, even more than it already has.
Yeah, that makes sense. Ray?
I think about the question of the facilitation support. For me, one of the things that would be really helpful is like helping us to understand some of the barriers. And I think that's not just a facilitation thing. That's, Kenny brought up earlier about inclusionary zoning. And I think sometimes we at what's possible, not what would actually be effective, and really having some people help with our strategic planning and political analysis of, okay, what would kind of be the roadmap to getting something that's going to be more effective, of having reliable funding stream for some of this affordable housing, and might make a real change, but that's not currently possible for just the city to do without some other changes.
Any other thoughts or comments? I mean, what I keep going back to is, how do we, again, take these kind of macro issues, right, that we're discussing? I mean, they're not all macro, but how do we take these issues that we're discussing now, like the funding, the change in funding, and what Ray mentioned, and all of these things, and kind of plug them into either the full commission meetings or the subcommittee meetings? Because at this point, the subcommittee meetings are really supposed to be the kind of focal points of the areas of homelessness that we decided to address, so that we can come up with some action plans. And I think that to Mindy's point, is how we decided that we were going to try and light a fire under mayor and council, since that's who we're advising. So again, going back to where we are in our subcommittees and working with Southwest Decision Resources, next month or in another month or in a different capacity, what do we need to be doing? What do we need to change? What mechanisms do we need to put in place or need help with in order to get these issues into the subcommittees so that we can process them and come up with recommendations? Because I really want to kind of stay on this idea of like, we have come up with a process that we're trying to follow through with. So, what would be helpful going forward so that we can get these recommendations complete, or at least have drafts, by say October or November or something like that. So I just want to make sure that the things we're talking about are getting placed in a manner in our subcommittees that we can deal with them. So with that, maybe we can move to the next agenda item, which is doing a check-in regarding working with Southwest Decision Resources. Do we want them to be available at our next meeting and have them, have a good chunk of our agenda to help us work through kind of where we are? Or do we want to, figure out a different way to use them as a resource? Because again, a few meetings ago, we decided in August that we would circle back and see where we were in our subcommittees and how SDR could further assist us. So want to put that on the table. Marion, I saw your hand up. Okay, go ahead.
So to your earlier point, and I was going to ask Jim this, and working with them, it's Jim, do you think it would be helpful for the Affordable Housing Committee, whatever, to have them help that committee get on on a course that's consistent and set some goals that everybody will work toward to be able to participate in the bigger group? That's just a question for Jim.
I'm happy to try. I mean, there's just a couple of us in that subcommittee as well. Let's discuss this offline. All right.
Well, so maybe here's a question then. Do we just want to have SDR come next meeting in August, our August meeting, and just kind of talk through this with us? Or what? I would like to get a little bit of direction about, what we're doing with SDR, what we're doing next month, or, I mean, also, right, we haven't been at it that long, two of the subcommittees didn't meet, which, that is what it is. So, I mean, we might just also need a couple of more months for our subcommittees to meet, to get to a place where, we've got some recommendations. So again, do we want SDR to spend, we don't have many hours left with them. So do we want them to spend an hour with us because we're a little directionless, or maybe we're not, and, we push them off? I'd love to, get some more feedback about, what to do for our next meeting. Go ahead, Mindy.
Thank you. I like the idea of them coming for our next meeting to help pilot us a wee bit. I think it's time well spent. I think we have some decisions to make as a commission. It'd be nice to have them there to help. Okay.
Sounds good. Go ahead, Kenny.
Yeah, thanks, Jay. I think it is useful, and also just if we can be sure that the subcommittees will at least meet once and have some draft ideas, it'd be nice if they were helping to facilitate some of the deliberation of okay, is this, how do we feel about this as a full commission? Some of the ideas that the subcommittees are bringing forward. So I think there's some timeliness, so I wouldn't push it back too far. But it is important that I feel like it's useful for that conversation.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, I do feel like equitable housing strategies, I think we've got some things we could probably put on the table that we've been talking about, but I wonder if, just having one subcommittee meeting between now and when we meet with SDR is enough to have some ideas to help them for them to help us deliberate, or if maybe we do put it off till September. Again, I'm just kind of thinking out loud here, but yeah, go ahead, Kenny. Did you have something else to say? Saw your hand. You're muted.
Sorry, a quick follow-up. It sounds like the Housing Trust Fund Ad Hoc Committee will be able to meet before then too. So I think that can be wrapped into the discussion.
Thanks. Go ahead, Tisha.
Yeah, I think with the lack of quorum in some of these subcommittees, we might want to wait another month. I don't know if the commission wants to vote on that or not, but I don't think we can accomplish much in one meeting to make it worth our while to utilize our last bit of hours with the facilitators.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I kind of feel like maybe this is just me, but I feel like we're reading a little bit much into our lack of progress just because, two of the subcommittees happen not to meet, which is, that happens. So yeah, maybe we give it until September, because that would give us two more months to meet in our subcommittees. And maybe what we can do instead is we can think about, the August meeting really essentially having another big chunk of time where we're spending more time with the report outs and kind of going over some of the things that the subcommittees are discussing, and just give us some feedback and have a general discussion. Because remember, I mean, part of the thing that we were wanting as well was to be able to have more time as a full commission to deliberate and to be able to have our own discussions based on either presentations we were receiving or whatever was going on at the time. So I don't think that would be a bad use of our time for the next meeting either, kind of like basically this meeting. And I don't know if there are some presentations that would be useful for our next meeting, but we can certainly see. But if we get too many presentations going, then we don't have time to deliberate. So it's a little bit of a balancing act there. Go ahead, Mindy.
Oh, sorry. I make a recommendation. I'm seconding a motion, or I'm making a motion that we have the facilitators come to our September meeting after the subcommittees have met. Do we need a motion on that, or?
I mean, I think we can just decide if we want to. I don't know that we necessarily need a motion unless there's some, competing ideas. I mean, it seems like folks are okay with September. Does anybody feel strongly that we should have the facilitators come in August as opposed to September? So, I mean, I think we can just say, it sounds like September will probably work unless, there's further discussion on that. We can certainly take a vote, but I don't think we need to. Does that seem okay to folks? Yeah, go ahead, Mindy.
Sorry, I feel that regardless of, we can still meet. I would like to see them come to August, and I am willing to support the will of the full commission. I'm wanting to see more movement forward, and for me, it's what my feeling is that we keep pushing things off, and I'm yeah, have a more immediacy of a need. So I can live with September. My preference would be our next meeting. That's all. Thanks.
Okay. Unless there's objection, I think it would make sense to wait until September for SDR. You know, I know Mindy, you'd like to have it a little sooner, but I do think it's important to give the subcommittees a couple of chances to meet. So let's do that. Unless there's, you know, a few more folks that really feel strongly for August. Let's go with September.
Hey Jay, sorry, I had a quick question. If we are doing facilitation in September, would we want to push back the in-person meeting to September as well? Because we were planning to meet in person in August.
That is a good question. I see Anne, you came off mute.
Well, yeah, and Marianne is here. We also want to honor Marianne, and she can't make the August meeting. So I sort of personally feel like it's turning out that if we are able to have the facilitators in September in person, then it might be easier for Marianne to make that. And Marianne, feel free to chime in if, you know, I know you said August wasn't good, but you didn't, but not sure about September.
Marianne, it all hinges on you. It's September.
Oh my God, yes. Let me have the only power I have right now. You guys should do this for September and do what's good for the commission and what you're saying. Everything you're saying makes sense for a September in person with your consultants. So yeah.
Would you potentially be available to attend so we could have a party?
You should have a party even if I don't attend, but
Fair enough.
yeah. So, or you should have a party because I don't attend. However you want to do that.
We can go any direction depending on whether you're there or
yes, there you go. So we'll leave it at that. You know, I don't know what September brings, but I don't plan on being out of the state like I do in August.
That sounds good. So it sounds like more things are kind of coming together for September for in-person and facilitation as well. So let's plan on doing that, and we can work out the details. Obviously, we will meet tomorrow to do some agenda planning and talk about that. So that being the case, is there anything else that we want to discuss regarding our, you know, action planning in our subcommittees, meeting with SDR, anything else we want to talk about? Because from here we would move on to city and county updates. So I just want to make sure if there's anything else that we want to talk about regarding our subcommittees that we can do so. Going once, going twice. All right. Next agenda item, city and county updates, HCD and PDSD.
I would add, happy to jump in. Thank you, Rachel, for sending out the detailed information in your agenda. So I'll just touch on those things really quickly. One is in terms of commission updates. Will be forwarding the applicants on to mayor and council. And so this is sort of last call for this round of vacancies for commission members. If you know anyone who's interested, have them get their application in ASAP. We do have some good applicants that we do want to move forward, but just also want to give anyone in the community who's interested in being on the commission a chance to submit an application. In terms of vacancies, I will be trying to find somebody to fill Mary Ann's seat. That seat is for a developer, you know, a nonprofit person who has development experience, the way it's laid out in the ordinance. And so we'll be trying to find someone that works. Actually, and as I say that out loud, I don't think it specifically calls for a nonprofit, but somebody who has development experience. I won't go through everything in that detailed report. We did talk about the point in time count earlier. I swear I was listening. I was on my way up to Flagstaff, but I have now made it to Flagstaff. I was in Phoenix today. The one thing I did want to mention, part of why I was there was meeting with public housing directors, public housing authority directors about the current funding and situation at the federal level. And so many of you probably know that the appropriations bills are what fund HUD. And so those are starting to, I believe next week is a housing committee meeting. And so the HUD funding discussion is just really starting for next fiscal year. And so something to keep an eye on. We do know that the initial proposed president's budget included some pretty massive cuts to HUD funding, including elimination of the community development block grant program, home funding, drastic reductions for housing choice voucher program and public housing, as well as some of the homelessness items. So something to keep an eye on. And of course, we are doing what we can to try to communicate how important that funding is. A couple other things you may have seen in the news, the Job Corps, speaking of federal impacts. And so over the past month, HCD worked with many different partners, but we were able to quickly house around 15 youth into some of our housing. And so, and then we are, reminder, City of Tucson cooling centers will be open through, and partner cooling centers are really important this time of year. We did move our cooltainers this year. Last year they were at Amazon. This year they are at the Hub, which is part of El Pueblo Center. And I will say those cooling centers are hopping. We're getting over about 130 people a day going through there, with it being right near the bus center, which is great in terms of we have a lot of housing first staff there to connect people to resources. And then we also have some drug education staff there through community safety, health, and wellness. And so that's been really encouraging. And then we will be gearing up, we'll be sending out invites for a ribbon cutting for the first phase of Amazon Flats. We are anticipating that will be September. And then the groundbreaking for Sugar Hill on Stone, you may have seen on Stone, it is currently under construction. Couple other just quick thoughts is if you missed the June 17th mayor and council session, there was quite a bit of a lengthy discussion. Kat Davis went to talk about the Tucson PIMA collaboration to end homelessness strategic plan, but it sort of veered into a whole lot of discussion. Sorry, I'm over at my in-laws. It veered into a whole discussion about the unhoused, generally speaking. A lot of the topics that Mindy talked about were discussed at that June 17th meeting. And so just wanted to call attention to that, but happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Ann. Marianne, you had a question or comment?
Thanks, Ann. Do you think it was the moving of the cooling station that has made it more active?
I think there's a few different things that come into play. Having that bus center right there, so it's adjacent to the transit center. So I think it's easy access. I think that housing first staff do an incredible job in terms of supporting people and have them feel valued. So I think it's a combination of a lot of different things. And it's hot.
Yeah, well that, yes. So my next question was, in terms of the HUD appropriation bills, what is the mayor doing and what is the city manager and the housing department doing? Are you going to be in Washington? You know, what is your guys' plan on addressing and trying to help educate people?
Yeah, currently we are working very closely with our federal lobbyist on sort of all pieces of this over the past week. And, we do have a representative from this region that is on the committee where a lot of this is being discussed. And so working with the mayor and our lobbyists to make sure that people have the information on how helpful and impactful HUD funding is. And so trying to do on many avenues, trying to make sure that our federal lobbyist is getting the information out that needs to be out.
Hey, Anne. Sorry, I have a quick thing too. If commissioners look in the detailed agenda and click under HCD updates under the read ahead document, that's where you can find a link to the June 17th mayor and council meeting. So links to the recording that Kat Davis's presentation as well as the meeting materials under there. If folks are interested in a direct link to those.
And thank you, Rachel. One other thing, we will meet between now and then, but I would say keep an eye out for the August 19th mayor and council meeting. So a lot of what was discussed at the June 17th will come back for additional discussion and follow up on August 19th.
Great, thanks, Ann. Corin, I think you're up, PDSD.
Yeah, so there was some updates from PDSD in the detailed agenda as well. We provided an update on the middle housing code amendment that we're working on. That's partially in response to state legislation that requires that jurisdictions with over a population of 75,000 or more create regulations to allow middle housing, but it's also based on policy direction the city of Tucson has set through the housing affordability strategy for Tucson and other documents that have highlighted the importance of middle housing and more diverse housing types. So we're really trying to take a more locally driven and community driven approach to
If we're not taking any votes or anything, which we won't be doing for the rest of the meeting, do we need to have a quorum? Will they come put us in jail if we keep going with out of 7?
Technically, you're supposed to.
Technically, we're supposed to.
Discuss matters, yeah.
Okay.
Has anyone been able to get a hold of Tisha?
I have not.
Yeah, I called and there was no answer. I just texted her.
Okay. Thank you, Mindy.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, let's just give it another minute or two, see if Tisha comes back. But I mean, we're very close to being done, and a lot of the updates and whatnot are detailed very well in the agenda. If folks have questions, and then the last agenda item that we would have covered as well would be next steps, and that's pretty much self-explanatory in terms of the subcommittees and our next meeting. And I think the main thing too is that we decided to push our in-person meeting that will include Southwest Decision Resources to September. So I don't know, y'all, I'm kind of think maybe we just call it at this point. I don't know if there's any objection to just calling it now, since, you know, Tisha's not. Jump back on. Thoughts?
No objection from me.
Yeah, no objection. Thank you, Jay.
All right, y'all. Thanks. And I will talk to everybody soon.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.